Welcome to the Spiritualpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Christian, aka Love Pixel. And in each episode, we sit down with spiritual entrepreneurs sharing their knowledge, wisdom, and tools on their path to authentic success. Let's dive in. What is up, beautiful people? This is Christian from the Successful Spiritualpreneur Podcast. And today I'm super excited because I have a friend and acquaintance, Emile Steenveld, on the podcast. He's a human behavior expert and transformative guide who has assisted countless individuals in their journey towards self-fulfilment and self-actualization. He leads his clients through deep internal shifts, addressing and mending long-held limiting beliefs and dismantling internal barriers that prevent them from realizing their full potential and success. Welcome to the show, Emile.
Thank you, brother. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, super exciting. So first of all, I think let's define success for people. Like, what's your definition of success? Because everybody has a different, definition of success. So let's define what you see as success.
Personally, Christian, I define success as being excited to get up and do the thing that you love to do with the people that you love to do it with. And when we can combine those two things, this is where I feel like we become fulfilled, right? Because every day we get to choose, okay, I get to work with this or I get to do this, but it's like it's is this making an impact? Is this fulfilling me? Is this in alignment with my values? Like, these are the things that I look for in success, because so many of us are constantly focusing on the next person. Oh my God, they made this money. Oh my God, they have this house. Oh my God, it looks like this. And we look outwards and we think it's going to feel a certain way, but actually it doesn't. So what I look for is going, okay, how do I feel inside when I'm doing the thing that is in alignment with me?
Beautiful. And I think that's a conversation that's really needed, because again, just like you said, so much of our focus is on the outside, right?
Yeah.
So how do you bring people? I mean, maybe before we, I tend to like jump into like deep conversations. Maybe let's give people a little bit of brief overview of your background and like your amazing wizardry and how you got people through these transformations. So yeah, give us a little bit of background info, like who you are, how you became the person you are today, and who do you help?
Okay, so a little bit of a background. Before I was a coach, I've been a coach now for 14 years. Back when people were still like, what's coaching? And I had to explain it. And before I was a coach, I was actually a model. And what's interesting about this, Christian, is that most people are like, well, how do you go from becoming a model to, going deep into emotional intelligence and human behavior? And the truth is, when I first started my modeling career, I was kind of like all over the place. I was kind of doing club promotions. I was figuring out what I wanted to do. I was just out of school. I was 18. For the first 3 years, I kind of was like trying to find what speaks to me. And I don't know about you in Europe, but in Australia, you finish school at 18 and it's like, now you're going to find out what you have to choose for the rest of your life. And it's like, how do you know that when you don't even know yourself? So, I went through a few different periods of trying different things. I studied public relations. I did marketing. School wasn't my most favorite thing, but I went to school to please my parents, because my parents come from South Africa. And they were like, you have to get an education. That's how you're going to get a good job. And this is how we've been taught. This is the system. And it didn't fit my narrative. It didn't fit in with me. So I went out there, tried a bunch of things, eventually got asked to do some modeling work. But to be honest, I was actually really afraid of rejection. And I was afraid of rejection because I didn't accept myself. And this is the thing about how this is interesting, is because I would avoid rejection at all costs unless I knew I was going to win at it or I was going to succeed in that specific thing. So I got asked to do modeling several times for about 2 to 3 years until I finally said, you know what, I'm going to try this. And, there's this saying that if you go towards your fear, on the other side of that is your freedom. And most of us, avoid fear, they avoid discomfort. And why do we do that? Is because we don't know that what's going to be on the other side of that, and that's really scary. So what we'll do is we'll settle for safety, and that's the ego. The ego's settling to keep you safe, and rather keep you safe than avoid embarrassing yourself or avoid looking a certain way. And I always ask my clients this, as like, would you rather be happy and fulfilled, or would you rather look good and have success, right? In quotation marks. So here I go. I eventually jump into the modeling industry. And the modeling industry taught me everything that I teach today, which is kind of ironic because people were like, well, what's modeling got to do with it? And it's got everything to do with it, because you're constantly putting yourself out there. As an entrepreneur, we have to constantly put ourselves out there, right? Every day you have to go for castings. People are going to judge you. People are going to reject you, right? Now, I was afraid of rejection. So what does the universe do? It goes, here, Emile, here's an industry that's going to reject you 95% of the time, and you're going to have to deal with that and get over it and befriend that if you're going to go to the top. So in my mind, when I finally accepted that I was going to do this, I had to accept the game that I was going to play, right? And it's kind of the same thing as in being an entrepreneur. It's like, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have to accept that you're going to get rejected. You're going to have to accept that you're going to get knockbacks. You're going to have to accept that you're going to put a whole bunch of work into something and it might not work. And that can be deflating at times, right? But if you have a vision and you're clear about it, and like, I'm going here anyway, you don't stop, right? So modeling taught me how to connect with people, because every time I went to a casting, I had to build rapport and connection with people. I had to enroll people in who I was to make sure that, like, I'm going to be the best person for this role, right? It taught me how to connect with other people in the industry, right? And build relationships. And it's funny, I've got like all these books behind me. There's a book on this shelf. I can't find it now, but it's called Perfect People Skills, right? And I bought this book when I was 18, like 22 years ago. I'm 40 now, right? And I remember reading this book going, okay, well, this is the game of modeling, and everyone looks good in a certain thing, but then you have to go to a casting, and you have to, not only, you got 5 seconds to sell yourself. So what's the difference between you and every other model that's going to be in this place? And it's the same question I still ask myself today. Like, what's the difference between you and every other coach in the world right now? Because there is so many coaches, right? But what makes you unique? What makes you stand out? What makes you impact people in a way that no one else can? And it's your unique blueprint, right? It's like, how do you make someone feel after they're in your presence? How do you make sure someone feels seen, heard, and understood after they've been coached by you, right? Have you really understood the core issue here, right? So the reason why I coach high achievers and high performers to become fulfilled is because I was that person 20 years ago, looking to be successful and have the money, and then reached that and was still not fulfilled. So see, it's a whole transition. So then I get to this part in my life and my career, like I had agencies all over the world. I was in Melbourne, Sydney. I had agencies in LA, New York, Germany, Barcelona, Hong Kong, Singapore. I was traveling all over the world. I looked successful, but eventually I wasn't fulfilled. Yeah. It's interesting when I talk back on this story, because it's like, it feels like so far away, but it was so part of the journey of how I got here today.
Yeah.
So even as I step into human behavior, it's like, the reason why human behavior is so special to me, Christian, is I'm so curious about why we do what we do and what drives us to do that. And when you start to watch patterns over time, you're like, even before we get on the call today, you were saying, I just love building things. So it's like, it doesn't even have to be physical. It could be like things. I just like to get an idea and create it. So already you're telling me something about your psyche and the way you look at things. You're like, ooh, if we can get this and tool this, like the exciting thing for you is going, oh, how can we make this a reality and build this out, right? And that lights you up. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for that in people to go, okay, what is lighting you up when you speak about something? Because most of us are doing a thing because it's comfortable or we've settled, right? So what I do is I come in and go, okay, where can we find out where's the gap and where's the core values here again, and let's re-identify again. And remember, I said to re-identify. I'm also saying let's create a new identity that's going to match the frequency to reach that goal, because that's all it is. It's an identity. It's a belief. But if I have stories in the background constantly telling me that I can't do that, or my mom said I shouldn't do that, my father said, you should get into this because it's really secure, then you're never going to allow yourself to put yourself in that position.
True. Yeah,
Yeah.
very true. It's cool. It's cool when I hear that and reflect it back and think about my story. It's like, yeah, it feels the same way. It's just so pivotal in me getting here of all the things that I've done, and such a cool journey, you know.
Mm.
So my next question for me would be, so how do you usually impact people, or how do people see you impact them? Like, is there what's your experience? Like, what's your feel?
I think there's two ways you impact people. You impact people by you leading and doing the thing that you set out to do through your being, because people are always watching. You impact people by going to the thing that you're afraid of still. And even though I've done this many, many times, I can still hide, avoid, and pretend like I'm doing the work, the more knowledge you get, the sneakier the ego becomes in this game. And this is why I have a coach. This is why I have a psychotherapist. This is why I'm part of a men's group, to keep myself accountable, to be like, okay, this is what I'm doing next. This is what I'm afraid of, and acknowledging those things still. So it's through me stepping in the uncomfortable zones as well that people and my clients watch as well. And they're like, okay, well, Emile's doing it. I have to walk the talk. I have to be doing the same thing, right? I can't just be saying to my clients, you need to get out of your comfort zone and do this thing and really step up. And then I'm in the background being like, I'm not really taking steps myself. And then the other part is, when I'm with my clients, it's about really holding them accountable, because if we're held accountable and we feel safe, keyword safe, and supported, then anything is possible, right? Because most of the time, most people don't want to step forward is because it feels lonely, it's scary, right? They don't feel like they're understood. It's like, and when you're playing at such a high level, sometimes it's like, well, who else can get me? Who else can support me? Right. And most of the time, what we're trying to do is we're trying to avoid an emotion. And the emotion is a subconscious, or it's like emotions is energy in motion. But most of the time, people don't even understand what the emotion is that they're trying to avoid. They just don't want to feel that feeling.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is good. Uh, I love your energy, because like even without you like calling out people in a way, like you have
Hmm.
this, like your frequency is calling out people in a way. You know what I mean? I think it's really beautiful about you,
Yeah.
and it's a very masculine quality that I really value and admire. So it's really cool. Um, so you've been now in Bali for 9 years,
Mm-hmm.
and you're still alive. Um,
Yeah.
And no, it's just so fascinating to me, because like Bali for me was also a big opener. Like I grew up in Germany, also kind of like did the regular career path, so to say. 18 high school. What do you do now? Okay, I guess I have to study. I study international business. Give me 1 second,
Yep.
guys. Sorry, my little one. It's like, Daddy, time to play.
No problem.
It's like in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Bali for me was also very pivotal, because it was the place where I really got to discover my spirituality and my just like meditation, diving into myself side, and back at that time, I grew up in Germany, and emotions, I feel like my EQ was always very low,
Yeah.
because emotions is not something that's really like has a top priority in Germany. You know, it's like a very cold environment. Everything very people live out of their heads. It's very thinker, very logic, very scientific, which is great, obviously, for some things. But is, on the human level, there's some sort of mismatch or some sort of lack that I've always felt there, living in Germany, that I wasn't aware of that even existed, because it's just so normal not to have it. Um, so yeah, it's beautiful. So for me, I have a very special connection to Bali, and seeing you living there for 9 years. I mean, tell me something. How did you get there? How did you stay there? I mean, you can probably talk only about some amazing people that you've met down there, because there's such a special group of people that goes down there. Yeah, so tell
I
me a little about your journey with Bali.
I came to Bali maybe 10, 11 years ago, first with an ex-girlfriend, and to be honest, I had no real desire to visit Bali because, my parents, I grew up in Australia, and there's a lot of Australians that go to Bali. So like I traveled all over the world before for modeling. Like I didn't have a desire to go to Bali because I was like, I don't feel like seeing more Australians. Like I don't travel to go and hang out with the same, people I grew up with. So, but I was really surprised with how I felt when I was in Bali. And I remember like coming here with my ex-girlfriend, and I remember going to Ubud, and the architecture and the way they build their houses, and like the indoor outdoor living and the nature, it was like it blew my mind. And I just remember when I woke up how I felt, and that was a keyword, how I felt when I woke up. I was like, I feel so much energy here. The weather is amazing because it's warm all year round. um and I remember waking up with ease versus like if it was cold in Australia or Melbourne or any place, like when I'm waking up, I would struggle to get out of bed, So that in itself was like, I wake up so easily here and I feel so good. And if you're waking up easily and you feel good, that's already half the battle, because your mind is like, oh my God, I don't want to get out of bed because it's so cold outside, or it's like miserable, or and for me personally, I associate summer with holidays, because in Australia, the summer holidays is around what, November, December, January, March in Australia. Like that's summer for us, right? And that's, so I always associate that with holidays. So like when I'm here, I feel like I'm on holiday all the time. Like literally, I just got back from Uluwatu yesterday, just for a night. I stayed up in Uluwatu, stayed in the Airbnb there, went to the beach the next day, came back, did some work. Now tomorrow I'm going to Ubud, going to the jungle. So you've got so many different elements here where I could be like beautiful beaches in Uluwatu, come back to Canggu, the beaches aren't the best here, but it's still really nice. Then I can go to the jungle for the weekend and stay in the jungle, right? And it's not just that, it's the quality of life. So it's like you can jump on a scooter and go anywhere. Like you don't need to jump in a car. You don't need to wait, a long time to get places, right? You can just zip around and it's like 5 minutes. So the quality of life, the lifestyle, um, when you have like-minded people around you that are also entrepreneurs, it's also good. It's also a good thing because you get to speak about different ideas, right? And the difference between Bali and living in Australia or even the States, which I lived in both, is everyone lives for the weekend. Whereas here, I forgot it was the week. Like I didn't realize today was even Saturday. I was like, oh, it's Saturday today. So it's just how it is. So when you're living in this kind of lifestyle, you've got, like, I surf. I'm now getting into paddle. I don't know if you've heard of paddle, but it's like this. It's a different version of pickleball, but it's so addictive. And these paddle courts are taking over Bali, and everyone's playing, so it's super competitive. So it's like you really live a healthy lifestyle. So food, healthy lifestyle, like training wise, like you've got steady out gyms, you got the beaches. It's like, what more do you want?
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, environmental design at its best. That you just surround yourself with
Mm,
people that inspire you, who you want to be. The nature is there, everything is there. So yeah, a very special spot.
Mm.
And so how, like, how do you usually like go about, like your online presence and building a business and having all that at the same time? Like, when did you get into deciding, okay, I kind of like need a website for my coaching? Like, when over the years did that evolve?
What's interesting is that I didn't have, like, I've been coaching now 14 years. I started studying coaching 20 years ago. Um, I didn't have a website for the first 7 years, to be honest. And it was all word of mouth. And when I first started coaching, it was like, I went to my first self development event called Landmark, and I learned a whole lot there. And after that, I started studying coaching with the ICA, the International Coaching Federation, the International Coaching Academy that was also certified with the ICF, the International Coaching Federation. That was a 2-year program. And from there, I just worked on my craft. And then I just started coaching and I started practicing. And as a consistency, practiced more and more. And I focused more on the craft than I did marketing, to be honest. So once I got my first client, that person referred to me to the next person, that referred me to the next person. Then all of a sudden I found myself coming to Bali. And my friend asked me, he's like, I know a girl that runs retreats here and she needs a coach. So I met up with her and she's like, asked me what I do. And I explained to her, she's like, can I have a trial with you on one of your retreats? And I said, yep. And actually, she's like, you're really good with what you do. And I said, okay. And then she's like, I'm going to offer you a position. So for the first 10 months of me being in Bali, I was working on, it was actually a mental health retreat. And I was working on this retreat 3 weeks out of the month, which was insane. Like that 1 week that I had off, I was like exhausted because I was coaching every day. And I just sharpened my sword, like skill level. And I heard everything about everything in this mental health retreat because it was people from all over the world, but it was like higher end and doing it every day. You're sharpening your skills, you're sharpening your sword. So I really got to figure out like what is it that I like to work with, who do I like to work with, and from that I was like, you know what, this isn't for me specifically, this retreat. So I started running my own. And then I got a website. Um, and then I started doing more stuff on Instagram, and I had this love-hate relationship with it, to be honest. Like the whole thing of like social media, like right now I'm building up my YouTube and I'm going to focus on that because of long-term content versus short-term. But it is a love-hate relationship with it because it's like, I wish someone could just do my content and I just coach because I love coaching, right? But you have to put yourself out there to bring more people in.
Yeah,
Mm.
totally. Yeah, definitely. It's a journey. I'm happy that you said that you didn't have a website for a long time, because for a lot of beginner people, I always just tell them, listen, you don't even need a website. Just like get your message out there somehow, right?
Mm.
And start like that, and you will know when the right time for a website is.
Mm.
So yeah, it's not a necessity for sure. And especially in times of like social media, you can build an audience and then drive them pretty much anywhere you want to. Like, you don't need a website, from
Mm.
the start or even within the first year. Um, so yeah, that's beautiful to hear. And in terms of like content creation, let's talk a little bit about that. Have you found any helpful tools or resources that you use to convey that message? Because I feel like these days on social media, it's just so important to, like, people want the full authentic version of you,
Yeah.
like, and it's so easily recognized when it's just scripted, or some sort of random AI content. People are just, they don't vibe with that anymore. So do you have any, yeah, how do you do it? Do you have any tools that help you? Yeah, let us know.
Um, it's funny because what I do is I always look at content that speaks to me, for me personally. And then I'm always thinking about like who's my, like, cause I'm always thinking about who's my avatar. And it's like, and I'm my avatar, because that's how why I target my avatar, which was the high achiever that was like not fulfilled, or you know, that what they struggle with. So I'm always thinking of like, what are they struggling with, and how can I convey a message and communicate that to them so that they start to think outside the box for themselves. Um, Now, ChatGPT, it's interesting because you can come up with a bunch of ideas, but it still doesn't hit the mark unless you're prompting the right kind of prompt for it. So for me personally, it's like I'll write, I'll have an idea, and what I do is I store all my ideas in my notes, and I'm like, oh, that could be an idea. Or when I'm listening to my clients, I always write the ideas. So like every time my client's going through something, I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea, or that's a really good concept. So I'm constantly, if you're paying attention, especially to your clients, they're always telling you what they're needing help with and support with. That's the best way to get content, right? Now, if you don't have a client or have clients first, I would start watching, looking out for like who's your avatar and who is it that you really want to support with and their pain points, and start to look at and pay attention to people that are speaking about these kind of things, because it's always out there, but we've got to be paying attention in those spaces, right? The way I create content is I do more now speak to camera and stuff. Um, it hits, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's crazy, Christian. Like 45 seconds is too long now. Like sometimes you have to do little cuts in and cuts out. It's like it's crazy because people's attention spans are shortening and shortening even faster. So sometimes you might just be better off just doing you sitting next to your computer and a heading and saying, I used to struggle with this, caption in the rest of the things in the caption, and it's like 7 seconds and it keeps looping, and then people watch it over and over again. But it's like, it's a game. Social media is a game, right? So it's like you have to figure out what's your angle and make sure that it's in alignment with you. Otherwise, you're going to hate it every time you have to create it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also the experience that I made. I started developing more my personal brand, I would say, last year. And I did a little challenge for myself where I posted a reel every day for 3 months, which I did with like a ChatGPT support, right? I wrote my scripts and I recorded them and yada yada. But after a while, I was just like, come on, this just feels empty. And then there's like, I lost my inspiration and drive to really create more. But now it feels like time for me is coming back to really just create more for my core. Um, because
Mm,
really, people want to connect and they want your authenticity. They don't necessarily want the scripted stuff. Like there's value in the scripted stuff, which I,
yeah.
honor, and I like the key takeaways and all kind of stuff. Um, but for me, I like would say I haven't found that with ChatGPT yet, right? And there's, I guess, like where's that balance? Again, it's a game. You have to play a little bit. Have fun because you never know what really works. And
Mm,
usually the people, the videos that I did from my heart, about how much I love making things tangible and putting that on the web, like were way better than this is the 3 steps on how to keep in mind when you create a logo. It's like, who gives a shit?
yeah. It does have, it has to have a mixture. The thing is, the thing with the brand, people want to feel you too. Like they want to be like, what about you? What about this? Like I can give tips all day, but if there's no feeling and energy behind this is why I do what I do, then there's no connection to it, right?
Yeah.
It's just a strategy, and it's the same thing with anybody. Like when you're coaching someone, it's like you could have the best strategy in the world, but if you haven't built rapport and connection with that person, they're not going to build trust. They're not going to trust you to take them there. They're just going to be like, I don't know if I feel safe with this person. And I keep going back to safety because you have to make someone feel safe in the space in order to move them through an uncomfortable phase.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And so, in your coaching process, I mean, I'm not sure how in depth it is, but what are usual the phases that you take somebody through? Like you say, obviously, first one is, report. You want to make feel them sense, but how do you take somebody to through a transformation?
It's an interesting question. Transformation, right? We break it down is to transform. So usually what we're transforming is perception, how I see things, what I made it mean, because we're meaning making machines, right? And I've got this beautiful saying, it's what you make it mean that creates our way of being. The question is, what are you making that thing mean? Right? So I'm always about finding deeper understanding in my clients to go, excuse me, finding out the core. What were your needs at that time? What did you make it mean at that time? What was your stories? What was the agreements that you made, right? So you might have that maybe your mom was really busy. I'm going to give you an example of one of my clients, right? He had a single mother and she was working 2 jobs, and he made it mean that she really didn't make time for him and her and his brother, right? And I said, it's interesting that you look at it that way. And I said, did you have everything you needed growing up? And he's like, yes. And he's like, but I never felt like my mother was around, and I didn't feel that nurture and that support. So we had resentment there. Now, the moment you have resentment, resentment is bitterness and anger that's being stored below the surface, right? And usually what people don't know is that they can have resentment towards themselves for certain ways that they've acted, right? Because we have certain expectations of how people should show up or how I should show up, right? So he had an expectation of how his mother should have shown up. But what we realized, his mother she was just trying to do what was best for him, to keep things afloat, to give him what he needed to succeed. So when we went to the core of that, right? Like I said, we're meaning making machines. Like someone that never had that. Imagine like you got 2 people. One person that their mother was never there because they were trying to work 2 jobs to provide the thing. And then you got a mother that was always there and always like giving him. And he was like, get away from me. You're smothering me. Right. So 2 people can have different perceptions about the same thing. Right. Be like, I wish I had a mother that was there. But then the other person's like, I wish I had a mother that wasn't giving space. Right. And it's how we perceive those certain things and how we receive love in those moments. And what we have to understand is I'm looking for the core of like, how is this affecting you in your day to day, right? So he had a story about money. He had a story about worthiness because he believed that because his mom wasn't there, that she didn't really care, right? And she didn't really care, but at the same time, he's working his ass off, doing exactly the same thing that his mom is doing now, to show up for his family, to be the better father, to do this. So he's continuing the pattern. And you will continuously continue the pattern until you're aware of the pattern that you're creating and recreating again, right? So we need to break patterns. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for the patterns that are continually happening, and they're from our ancestors. Like my parents are from Cape Town, South Africa. Like my parents had a story about money. Why did they have a story about money, Christian? Because my parents were treated very ill from the white man in South Africa. So my parents are both Cape colored, right? Considered Cape colored, which is a derogatory name that they got given back in the day to differentiate. So you had the whites, you got the blacks, and then you got colored. The colored is like the mix between the blacks and the whites. So my parents we couldn't drink from certain taps or go to certain beaches, or, my dad was getting paid 10 times less than someone that was white because of his skin color. And because of that, has a story around money. So they've got to make sure that they save, because they've got to make sure that they're not getting paid as much as someone that was getting paid this. So it was never made for them. And even though they moved to another country, they still had the same story up until this day. Like, I'm like, guys, you guys need to work on your money story. I had to work on my money story because their money story transferred to my money story. All right. So I've come a long way with money, but I'm still reprogramming my subconscious around this because it's ancestral. All right. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for patterns. I'm looking for how aware they are of their patterns. And like I said, the first part is we have to build rapport and connection. The second part is like, how aware are they of their subconscious? And then how do we recreate our beliefs and our identities? Because it's in our underlying beliefs what we started, like the agreements I said to you before, the agreements we made with ourselves as children, and how that's carried through our life. So if I believe that I'm not worthy because my mother was never there, then what am I going to do? I believe I'm not going to be worthy, and I'm going to attract. And this is what he was doing. He was attracting business partners that were taking advantage of him because he didn't believe that he was worthy and enough, right? So see how that transfers to everything else. And once we worked on the enough story and that he is enough, he went from making $3,000 to $4,000 a month to $30,000 to $40,000 a month, right? But if you don't work on the money story, right, and actually go to the core of that, then even though you're making more money, you're still going to continue creating the same problems, right? Just because you're making more money doesn't mean you're not going to get rid of the problems. You have to go to the core and figure out what is actually happening underneath the surface. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. What a great invitation for us all to look a little deeper, you know? I
Mm.
love the awareness you create around, yeah, just creating more awareness, you know? Because that's where the secret lies. One of my favorite teachers around that topic of like turning around the perception is Baron Katie. I'm not sure if you
Oh
know
yeah.
her.
Mm.
Um, but I really like her work. It's actually called The Work, thework.com.
Yeah.
Very very funny. She has a free worksheet of where you're able to just like turn around your perception about any given topic at any given time, which is a beautiful self, uh, you know, self process you can go through. And yeah, so that's I think that's at the end of the day, it's like it always comes back to the same thing. It's like your awareness and bringing light, shedding light to the spots that haven't gotten the light in the
Mm. Yeah, exactly.
um
But then
so
it's also Christian. It's also going, okay, now that I know this, it's not enough to know it. We
oh
have
yeah,
to embody. We have to
it's
embody.
it's
So it's like
continuous.
now what's yeah,
Yeah.
so now what's the integration? And the keyword integrate, because most people will go and read a book and go, cool, I read that book. I read this book. I read this book. And I'm like, cool, but what are you doing with it? How have you
Mm,
mastered it? Right? We have to master it. And the more we master that, we embody it. And the more we embody it, the more we become it. It's like, and then you create that from your being, not from your doing.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I love that. I have a very simple example. It's actually about tea, unrelated,
Yeah.
maybe about subconscious patterns. I mean, it is probably a subconscious pattern by now for me, but I drink
Mm.
so much tea. But it's true, like because I've just become so much tea. I drink it so much. I know so much about it. I've taught classes about tea. It's like one of my passions, right? So at some point, you just become it, and when you make that creating awareness process a habit and really more part of your life, then you will create obviously more awareness. You become more of that awareness, and you can undo and realize patterns quicker.
Mm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm.
So thanks for doing that work. You know.
No, I mean, I love it. So it's, for me, it's not even work. It's one of those things that it's like I get off a call and I'm like, I'm more excited after the call than before it. Like if I've had a day and I'm tired, and even sometimes like I don't do calls that late, but I do have one client that's in New York, so it's or Washington, so it's really hard. So I know it's at the end of the day for me, but it's an 8 o'clock call. But even after I finish it, I'm pumped up, which means that I'm in the right place,
Yeah,
right?
you're in flow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Mm.
So we're nearing the end of the podcast. We have about 5 minutes left or so. So
Hmm.
I want to talk a little bit more about your desires, your future, like anything you want to call in, dream, vision. I always like to give people the space to just like, this is what I'm looking to call in. Like I'm really excited for this coming up. And so yeah, if you want to share a little bit about your universe, your dreams, your visions, your desires, everything is welcome here. And know that this is a space where things multiply.
Yeah, at this moment, I'm excited about I'm creating new offers, and I've worked with so many different people around the world. But what I do is I love working with high achievers and action takers because they play a bigger game. Um, it doesn't even have to be like a high achiever. It has to be someone that's like, you know what, I just want something more for myself that's going to impact other people. Like I love to. It has to keep spreading, right? Because why are we here, right? How is my work impacting other people? How is my work influencing other people in a good way, right? So for me personally, right now, it's like I want to work. I used to play basketball at a high level, and what's interesting for me right now is going. I would love to work with some NBA basketball players that either NBA basketball players, actors, or even singers in the space that are like high pressure situations that they really are good at what they do, but they're also need a bit of support in the space of emotional intelligence, their discipline, their connectedness to themselves, because you got so much pressure from the outside, from everything, from like how I have to be to the entourage that they have, to, you know, people coming at them every 5 seconds. It's like sometimes that can be really lonely, and this is why people get into drugs. This is why people get caught up in the wrong path, or the influence gets to their head. So it's like I want to be that person that could be the support for them in that space so that they stay grounded and stay focused and true to themselves, so they stay fulfilled in this space.
Beautiful. And
Mm.
that's already making its way to you. So
Mm.
I'm excited for you to, step into that. I have no doubt you're gonna do that. And
Yeah.
it's incredible. It's I love witnessing people's desires and just like they always come true.
Mm.
Yeah. Like there was not a single wish in my life that didn't come true, right?
Mm.
And all the ones that didn't come true were probably not important enough for me.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. It's like you can have reasons or results, but you can't have both. So it's one of those things where it's like I always ask myself, why do I want that? Why does
Mm.
that, And in my head, I'm like, I might get it, Christian, and be like, I don't know, because
Well, why do you
what
want that?
well, why do I want that is because I know what it feels like. I grew up playing basketball at a high level, but um, I know what it feels like to have that kind of pressure. And even being in the modeling industry, I was traveling all over the world. Constantly people are talking about you, this and that. You're on billboards. You're doing this. In that industry, I know the ins and outs of it. So in my head, I'm like, "Ooh, I wish I had that kind of support when I was growing up." So for me personally, it's someone that can understand it, right? But also go, okay, here's a guy that's like 21, 22 and getting millions of dollars. That's a lot of energy that's coming their way. How do you be with that? Now, all of a sudden, there's a lot of attention from women. How do you be with that, right? And as a young man versus, getting all that attention, it's like, how do you not let that get to your head? How do you stay focused and true to yourself in this space? Because temptation can get us pulling in different directions. So for myself, I'm like, okay, well, how can I be that person for you to really bounce off and mentor you and support you in those spaces, whether that's in your business or your personal, and it's the same thing, and really just keep you on track to stay in alignment with what's true to you and your vision. And if you can do that, then you're going to impact more people anyway, right? If you're someone that's like in this game, like I had another artist who's a singer, and it was interesting. Like the moment we started working together, he lost a bit of belief in himself. And then we went to the core of that and started to figure out that. And then he starts writing music again, starts creating again. Then he's in flow again and he's singing again. But now he's talking about these messages to people. Now he's putting himself out there more again, and then that's impacting, right? Because he has a big following. So it's like, how can we impact people in ways that inspire others?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and you're doing it so well. You know, I think you're such an incredible beacon of light that shines not only for yourself but through others. So I just wanted to acknowledge that for you and reflect that back to you because um, I think there's a lot of people out there that need that support and want it and don't even know it
Mm,
exists. And oftentimes, um, I think the easiest way to create what we want is just to go for it. You know,
yeah.
just to not complicate it. It's just like, yeah, why don't you ask that person to do that for them, with them? You know what I mean? So I'm very excited for you.
Thank
And
you.
this last question, I would like to ask you: what is there that you want to leave the audience with? Is there anything you want to, you know, what do you want to share? What do you want to leave the audience with?
I would say if it scares you, go towards it one step at a time. And if you keep going towards it, you're going to eventually push through it. And when you eventually go through it, you're going to realize that you're still alive. And there's going to be way more range for you to explore your desires. And that's a life worth living.
Beautiful.
Mm.
Thank you so much. Where can people find you? How can they get in touch? How can they, get more of
Um, they
you,
can
your
find me.
beautiful face?
Yeah, they can find me at my Instagram, which is at Emile Steenveld, or you can check out my website, which is www.emilesteenveld.com, and be in touch there.
Amazing.
And soon, my YouTube will be out. So, same thing, my name. So,
Beautiful. We'll keep an eye out for that on Insta, website, and YouTube. So, yeah, thanks so much for making time for the podcast, sharing your wisdom,
thanks,
um,
Christian.
and it's been a true honor. So, yeah, I love having people like you on who just like are so in integrity and shining their light and so committed to the path. So, thank you.
Thank you, brother, for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
All right, bye for now.
Cheers.